They were all assigned various points, but the way that the law is written, you were only penalized for the highest number of points, and that would be the operation after revocation. That's 6 points. Now, you did have a disobeying police officer that was also 6 points, but because you already have a 6-point conviction on that day, that's not counted. The 3 points for the speeding isn't counted. The 2 points for the unregistered vehicle isn't counted, and the 3 points for the misuse of plates isn't counted either. So although you have 5 convictions for 5 violations on one single day, only the 6 points are counted against you, not the total number of points. So I've crossed those out, and I'm going to give you your motor vehicle record. And I would point out for the record, if you had taken a demerit point reduction class, you wouldn't even be here today. Your point totals are 12. That's, based on what I've looked at, that is the lowest number of points that would subject you to a suspension. And let me see. The DMV they'll give you a notice that you're getting close on points. You probably didn't receive it because you have a minimum number of points that are applied to you. So the time that you would have received it, you probably already went over the minimum number. Have you had a chance to take a look at that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anything you want to state addressing that?
How many people were killed in the offense of these?
I don't know, ma'am. And that's not relevant to the hearing.
It's not irrelevant. No. So you can take people's licenses away without knowing how many people they've killed.
You don't have to kill somebody in order to take their license away. This is sort of a, what's the word I'm looking for, prescriptive measure, so that people don't get killed in the future. That's all.
But if someone had killed people in traffic or with their car,
yep,
wouldn't you take their license away?
I certainly would. Those are called fatality hearings, and if they've materially contributed to the accident that took the life, then they would be subject up to a 7-year loss of license.
So how many buildings were destroyed by these actions?
None that I'm aware of.
And
unless you want to testify to any now.
There's no evidence of any, and
I'll tell you my feeling looking at it. After your first series of offenses, you got some minor offenses. That's what it looks like to me.
And no one was even injured, or
not that I'm aware of,
or insulted, or even lied to in any of these actions.
Not that I'm aware of, ma'am.
But yet there's penalties for these actions.
Well, there is. There's penalties for the number of points that you accumulate. As I said before, after your one incident, you had one major incident, I think, what is it, in 11 of 07? Mm-hmm. You accumulated points on minor incidences. If you had only had that major incident, you would not be here today because you would have only had 6 points. But since that time, you've accumulated points for unregistered vehicle, which is generally viewed as a somewhat minor offense. I believe you have 3 on that, is that correct?
I thought that was before the major incident.
No, I think those happened after the major incident, did they? Yeah, if I can see that, maybe I misspoke. Maybe I mislooked that.
2008. You're right.
Oh, these happened, oh, I see. Okay. I see how they've done it. You paid your fines in 2008. So these are on your record afterwards. This actually happened, the minor offenses happened before the major offense. The major offense occurred on 10/3/07, the minor offenses occurred on 1/27/07. So that's why. It puts a little different spin on it. Okay, well, ma'am, you've had a chance to look at these. Do you want to address whether or not these are yours or not? Are they your offenses?
Or if I had evidence to prove that they weren't.
Mm-hmm. Do you have evidence to prove they were not?
No, I don't think I need extra time to
All right.
defend myself.
This does put a little bit of a different spin on it because you had a bunch of minor offenses and then you had a series of major offenses. And the reason for that is that if you had a major offense and then you only had these minor unregistered vehicles, I would look at it somewhat differently because I would assume that you are just getting something minor. The difference is that the severity is increased. Now, I will note for the record, your most recent offense occurred on 10/3/07, over a year ago. And I haven't received, I don't see where you've even been pulled over since that time. Have you, ma'am?
That's true, I have not.
Okay, is there anything that you would like for me to consider?
Just the fact that no one's complaining, no one's been hurt, nothing's been damaged, none.
As I said
I
before.
haven't even, damaged any of my own property.
Well, the major offenses here that I see are the disobeying a police officer and the speeding. The operation after revocation is considered a major offense, but it's very questionable as to whether or not the aspect of safety is coming to effect. Unregistered vehicle and misuse of plates, that's primarily, you see those people who can't afford that, or I think probably in this case, want to protest having a vehicle like that. I don't know what the situation is here, but they're not necessarily something that calls safety into consideration. Do you want to address the disobeying the police officer and the speed? You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'll give you a chance to.
No.
Okay. The other thing I need to point out to you is that I'm sure as you're aware, there are many ways that a person can lose their privilege, their operating privilege on New Hampshire's roads. And one of them is as a habitual offender. Now, in your case, you've got one major offense, that's the operation after revocation. And you have one minor offense, that's the speeding. You're not quite there. You can lose your license for a habitual offender if you take a look on the back of your notice to appear. If you get 3 major offenses, or if you get 2 major offenses, 4 minor offenses, 1 major offense, 8 minors. As you can see, you're arguably a third of the way there because you have 1 major offense. I have to notify you of that. We look at the number of offenses that you accumulate in one 5-year period. You already have 1 major offense, so that's something that you might want to look out for. It's an operation after suspension. Oftentimes, I will see these things kind of in a group. A person may get an operation after suspension and then they'll get another couple ones. It'll subject them upwards to a 4-year loss of license, and it's something that's generally easily avoidable. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In order to have a suspended or revoked license.
Yes. Do you need a
Don't we
license?
have a license?
No, what it is, there's a difference. It's you can either have your license suspended or you can have your operating privilege suspended. Now, in your case, if you don't have a license, you see this a lot with younger people who haven't gotten it, but they've gotten a lot of offenses. If you were going to go get your license, it would keep you from applying for a license during that period of time. It would also keep you from riding with a licensed driver if you were training,
I see.
that sort of thing. If you don't have a license, the reality of it is that it doesn't really affect you a great deal.
But I'm being punished for
Let's
having a revoked license, even though, as far as I knew, I didn't have any at all.
Right.
So there was no way to revoke it.
You're considering this solely as punishment. This isn't necessarily punishment, it's more remedial. It's to keep you from getting more tickets in the future. And also, we are in the Department of Safety, so that the safety aspect comes into it. I've already addressed all that, and my feelings regarding your record, those convictions that pertain to the safety aspect.
What's
There
gonna
is an
happen?
assumption of knowledge of the laws if you're going to be on the roads.
And how,
In certain cases, people are notified.
how many laws are there?
I don't know, it's like asking how many lawyers are there, huh?
But even you don't know how many there are, so you can't know all of them, can you?
Oh, you are quite correct with that. I don't know all of the laws in the state of New Hampshire.
And so how can every driver on the road know all of them?
You are correct. You can't know all of the laws on the road, but there is an assumption that you do know the laws pertaining to operating motor vehicle safety. Regarding demerit points, the average citizen probably doesn't know that, but be that as it may. But ma'am, looking at your record, and the fact, as I said initially, if you had taken a demerit point reduction class, you wouldn't even be here today. It's unfortunate that when you called up to find out about your points that the demerit point reduction class wasn't forwarded to you, or you weren't made aware of that at the time.